In the West, we generally expect philosophy to come from books. In the East, more wisely, there's an awareness that it may also come from other things, for example, rocks. This is a brief history of a remarkable Eastern tradition of philosophical rock appreciation. 826 AD, Tang Dynasty, Lake Tai, Jiangsu Province, China. A middle-aged gentleman is taking a stroll around a large lake on the Yangtze Delta Plain in eastern China when something on its shore catches his eye. It's an apparently trivial yet momentous discovery, a pair of oddly shaped rocks. This is perhaps no less than the founding moment in Chinese petrophilia. This cultivated pedestrian is someone special, after numerous ups and downs in his career as a state official, including periods of imperial disfavor and exile. Baizhu has finally made it. He's been appointed prefect of the nearby city of Shuzhou. He also happens to be one of China's major poets. It's not a chance combination of talents. The ideal administrator doesn't just know maths and timekeeping. In China, he's meant to be a man of learning and the arts. Many of China's leading poets and painters have careers in public service. So struck is Baizhu by these rocks, with their twisted angles and perforations, that he has them taken back home to Shuzhou. Soon after his return, he sits down and writes a poem about them, A Pair of Rocks. Baizhu starts by admitting that the rocks are not typically beautiful. Dark, sallow, two slates of rocks, their appearance is grotesque and ugly. They're also covered in dirt and begrimed with smoke, their cavities thick with green moss. He describes himself washing and scrubbing them. So just what is the value of these unprepossessing specimens? Taoism, which began as a philosophy in ancient China before turning into a popular religion, cherishes nature, and it's evidence of nature's force that Baizhu welcomes in these rocks. The holes, perforations, and indentations signal the patient, mighty forces of the universe, which we should respect, admire, and attempt to find harmony with. The ancient rocks are also a consolation for an aging Bai, who feels excluded from the world of youngsters. As he writes, turning my head around, I ask the pair of rocks, can you keep company with an old man like myself? Although the rocks cannot speak, they promise that we will be three friends. Thanks to Baizhu's enthusiasm and poetic talent, a wave of interest in rocks follows. 12th century AD, Northern Song Dynasty, Wuwei District, China. Mifu, another rather eccentric scholar official, has just been appointed as a magistrate in Wuwei County. On arrival, he has to pay an important social visit. He's been invited to meet and greet all the other important administrators with whom he'll be working. They stand waiting for him in the front garden of the official residence. But as he walks towards them, they're shocked at a sudden breach of protocol on his behalf. For he's been stopped in his tracks by an unusually large rock in the garden. Instead of offering his respects to his hosts, Mifu turns and bows ceremoniously to the rock, then addresses it as Elder Brother Rock, and makes an elaborate speech in its honor. Only after fully expressing his devotion to this amazing rock does Mi finally turn to his flabbergasted hosts. It was this story that earned Mifu his sobriquet, Crazy Mi, and captured the imagination of East Asia's painters, for whom Mifu and Elder Brother Rock remained a favorite image for centuries to come. Mifu goes on to write a treatise on rocks that enumerates 4 main aesthetic qualities he detects in them. Shu, an elegant and upright stature. Zhu, a wrinkled and furrowed texture. Lu, or cracks that are like channels or paths through the rock. And Tu, the holes in the rock that allow air and light to pass through. In the 11th and 12th century Chinese Northern Song Dynasty, the passion for collecting rocks among scholar officials like Mifu takes off in earnest. Stones are mounted on wooden bases and placed on desks as constant sources of inspiration. The decorative stones become known as gongshi, spirit stones, popularly mistranslated as scholars' rocks in English. Their peculiarly twisted shapes are admired as evidence of the qi energy that is believed to animate nature and the human body alike. Any cultivated person is expected to have an appreciation of rocks. They're valued quite as highly as any painting or calligraphic scroll. During the Song dynasty, the most favoured rocks are quarried from the limestone of Lingbi in the northern Anhui province. Lingbi rocks are dark black and glossy in texture. January 1127 AD, end of the Northern Song dynasty, Kaifeng, northern China. The imperial capital of China, Kaifeng, is under siege and about to fall to the Jurchens, a nomadic people from Manchuria. Soon the Song Emperor Huizong will be taken captive and forced to abdicate, while his son, Quinzong, will flee to the south to establish a new court and the southern Song dynasty. China will be split in two. In these desperate final days of the northern Song, the order is given for the trees in Huizong's spectacular imperial garden at Kaifeng to be cut down for firewood, and for its incredible array of fabulous rocks to be pulled out of the ground and used in catapults against the invaders. It's a sad end to what was reputed to have been one of the most remarkable gardens in world history. The royal park is said to have been teeming with striking rocks, but Emperor Huizong's passion for rocks has clearly got rather out of hand and explains his neglect of security issues. Huizong had in previous years appointed a royal official to explore the whole of China in search of precious rocks for his garden. Tales abounded of his official's abuses. It's said that he dismantled a bridge to let boats with huge rocks pass by on a particular canal. A love of rocks appears to have hastened the collapse of the Northern Song Empire. 1450, Muromachi period, Japan. In 15th century Japan, a new type of rock garden develops. As with much in Chinese culture, the obsession with rocks has crossed over to Japan, but has been adapted there in a particular way. In Japan, the spirit rocks are called suseki, and the Japanese favour much more subdued, smooth rocks than the Chinese. In Japan, rocks are treasured for their weathered appearance that exemplifies the worn simplicity of the aesthetic known as wabi-sabi. In Japan, the rocks are not so much placed on wooden stands as positioned in trays surrounded by sand or water, and are meant to evoke mountains and corresponding lakes. At several Zen Buddhist temples, and most remarkably at Ryoanji in Kyoto, the stones start to be set in very minimal settings so as to emphasize their qualities. The raking of the gravel around the rocks by temple monks grows into a careful and precise art. There are various patterns one's meant to use, including the water pattern of concentric rings or ripples, like those produced when a stone is dropped in a lake, the stormy water pattern of haphazardly overlapping semicircles, and the continuous wave effect of parallel or gently undulating lines. The originator of the East Asian reverence for rocks, Baiju, was well aware of how powerful a love of rocks can become. In his essay, Account of the Lake Tai Rock, he speaks of an addiction that some rocks can bring about. Truly wise people should, he says, restrict their rock worship to a few hours a day. When few of us spend more than a few minutes a year looking at a rock, the advice seems less than urgent. Indeed, the tradition of rock reverence has a lot to teach us, that wisdom can hang off bits of the natural world just as well as issuing from books, that we need to surround ourselves with objects that embody certain values we're in danger of losing sight of day to day, and that some of our most precious moments can be spent in the presence of nothing more chatty, prestigious or costly than an old stone ripe with years.